My name is Timothy Harris, and today I'm here at Berkeley with Dr. Polina Lishko. Dr. Lishko is a leader in developmental biology. So Dr. Lishko, I've already introduced you just a little bit, but I'd like to ask you, who are you and what do you do?
Thank you for such kind words. Well, I'm a faculty at the University of California, Berkeley, and for the last 10 years I also was teaching advanced physiology to pre-med students. But my main direction is research in the role of steroid hormone, how steroid hormones influence our body, starting from reproductive function to the physiology of aging. And as a team, we are very passionate about finding the molecular mechanism behind physiology of aging, reproductive dysfunction. And the translation application of this research could be starting from improving our reproductive health towards contraception, but also making sure we live healthy life.
So Dr. Lishko, why is reproductive health important?
Okay, so reproductive health is an important parameter because first of all, reproduction is a fundamental function of our organism, which defines whether, let's say, a living object is defined by several parameters, including its ability to reproduce. But overall, infertility could often be a harbinger of something else going on with the body. And if the reproductive function is affected, it almost could be a certain diagnosis to look at deeper and find other potential underlying disease. But of course, many people who want to plan their family want to be able to define when they're ready to reproduce, and they want to have as healthy option as possible. So I think it's absolutely important that our reproductive health will be given more attention from the society as well as from the government to deliver more funding to the research which tackles this area.
So one of your research topics that comes up as I did research on you is birth control research. And I heard a lot of birth control that we have on the market today. They increase your levels of progesterone, estrogen, or they decrease. They do some crazy stuff in there. But in your research, you almost have ways of maybe avoiding the negative side effects of those high hormonal levels. Can you dive deep into that or kind of describe?
Absolutely. So if you talk about female reproduction, right, the pill, the invention of the pill is one of the great advancement of our civilization. In fact, somebody ranked the best invention throughout civilization, and the pill was number 3. Because it revolutionized economic, it revolutionized reproductive rights, it revolutionized our society as a whole, because now women were able to control their reproductive health, they were able to decide when they're ready to start family, and it equalized women's ability to work and be a productive member of the society. But of course, if giving the stringent requirement for safety which are given to the drugs today, if for example this pill would be proposed to enter the market, the pharmaceutical market, this time it probably won't make it based on the safety profile, because a lot of hormonal contraceptives which are based on endogenous steroids, right, they have plethora of other function and they can have lots of side effects, such as, for example, women who smoke, they cannot take hormonal contraceptive because it dramatically increases the rate of the possibility of blood clots. There are some contraceptives have side effects such as ectopic pregnancy, osteoporosis, obesity, even depression. And all of this, of course, makes people who take contraceptive less healthy. So an alternative is needed, and ideally the new generation of contraceptives should be non-hormonal. They can still target the same pathways, but they should not be able to have the same pleiotropic effect to affect multiple organs as higher hormonal contraceptives do.
I see.
So that's why, of course, we are already past due the time when we need to introduce new non-hormonal, more safe and overall, of course, probably even more affordable options.
So, what are within the next 5 to 10 years? What are your future goals in reproductive biology? What would be like your capstone? Like, what would you say? Like, yes, like I can't wait. I achieved this. This happened. What would that be?
As a research team, we are very fascinated with what exactly happens through our, youth age when we are, reproductively healthy, and then, menopause or andropause starts. There is a dramatic decline in our physiological function, which, there are age-related diseases such as Alzheimer, age-related macular degeneration when we lose sight, and everything. Strangely enough, happens in the same time when there is a decreasing level of circulating hormones, including steroid hormones. And we want to understand what exactly happens, why the presence of steroid hormones is so beneficial for our health. Can we extend our healthy life by supplementing, not necessarily with the same hormone, but maybe we'll be able to develop a compound, a drug, or a therapy to promote our healthy life. It doesn't mean we need to extend reproductive age, that women would have ability to have babies at 90 years or being 90 years old. No, that's not our goal. But our goal to extend life or find a way to extend life that, 90-year-old person would feel themselves as 30-year-old.
90-year-old.
So, but in order to understand that, we want to understand how exactly our healthy reproductive function benefits our more active and healthy life. And for example, there is certain research going on in this area which indicate that, for example, women, like 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients are women, and there is a correlation with the early onset of menopause and high risk of Alzheimer's disease. And why is that? So apparently there is some correlation. We want to understand on the molecular level what triggers that. So that's my goal for the next 10-15 years.
Okay, well,
find a connection.
I hope you get there.
Right?
I hope you get there. Just aggressively go for it.
Well, curiosity is the key.
Okay, good. So you were born in Ukraine, right? And so describe the process of being born in Ukraine and coming and being a professor here at Berkeley, California.
Well, I was born in a beautiful country, and when I started university, Ukraine became independent. It was 1991. There's lots of changes, lots of challenges, but again, Ukraine is a beautiful country. People are amazing, as probably already well known. So, of course, at that time, my country was going through the transition economic crisis, and as during every economic crisis, science is usually not given much priority. So that prompted my husband and myself to look for job opportunity for, to continue our education abroad. And we went on the job market searching for postdoctoral position, and we were lucky enough to end up in Boston, Massachusetts. So I ended up at Harvard Medical School. Spending my next 4.5 years in ophthalmology field. And actually my background is neuroscience, surprisingly. So ophthalmology was exciting area. I cherished every single day of that time. And then I ended up for my second postdoctoral position working on receptors for temperature and pain, also related to neuroscience and understanding more kind of a structural peculiarities of those receptors. And eventually it happened that my family, we moved to the West Coast, and I spent next 5 years, almost 5 years working at University of California, San Francisco on a new challenging project, understanding how bioelectricity regulate the function of male reproductive system, particularly sperm cells. That was an interesting topic because not many people work in this area. And in science, there is a different area. You can either enter a very competitive area and enter the rat race, where you have to be very efficient and aggressive and often publish fast just to be ahead of your competitors, when you get into an area where few people are working on, it's kind of like uncharted territory. Spend more time, dig deeper, and find something interesting. So that was my choice, because not many people were working on those big ring cells, and it was on the sperm cells, and it was really cool because this cell is like kind of is a wonder machine. It's like a nano machine which brings genetic material from one organism to another.
So, I'd like to ask, what made you like be interested in reproductive biology specifically? Why not like neurology? Why not photography? Why not anything else out in the world? Why specifically reproductive biology?
Interesting question. I would say maybe accident. A lot of cool stuff in science happens by accident. So at the time, the lab I was in had a variety of projects, and this project working on the bioelectricity of sperm cell was very unusual, but also challenging. So it was kind of like almost a daring task. Can we do it? What is there? Like, would it work? So it didn't work initially. I spent few fruitless months trying to understand how to record the electrical activity of the cells, but eventually it worked out. And from the time it opened this whole uncharted territory of molecular mechanisms that were taking place in the cells, and no one knew they exist because we applied new technology. So it also was, my background is in biophysics, and I applied this knowledge to biology. So it kind of was a disciplinary approach, and that's actually one of the recipes for success in many areas. When you enter a field, bringing new knowledge or new skills, which didn't take place in that field yet, you're always guaranteed to find something cool.
Okay.
And many scientific branches, many research areas would benefit from interdisciplinary influence. Because often people who are coming from outside have a fresh look, and may change the dogma or may bring something new just because they look at the things different.
I see. You give the new perspective.
New perspective, exactly. That's true for many branches of, science field, whatever. I think it's, generally a collaborative approach, interdisciplinary approach is the way, like diversifying science in every way is a great thing to do.
Where's your favorite place to eat here?
So there are a few places on campus which are really great. I like this amazing place called Jupiter. They have very nice pizza and also nice sandwiches. There's actually downtown Berkeley is amazing. There's some wonderful. I also like Yali's Cafe. They have wonderful coffee. Whenever I have time to go outside.
And what do you do for fun?
Okay, for fun, how many things I used to do. When we were fortunate enough to ended up living in suburban areas, the first thing I started to do, I decided to raise chickens. And I wasn't very successful. Well, initially I was successful, but we have a competitors in the form of bobcat, which also liked our chickens. And this bobcat took them one by one. So, apparently bobcat needed to feed her family, but we let our chickens run, and of course our place is near open space, so bobcat took advantage of it. After that, I decided to become a beekeeper, and again, for the first 2 years I wasn't very successful because it's an art and I know how hard it is to keep bees, but on the third year everything worked out and we got a nice harvest, which I shared with whoever I could. We got some honey, and it was a lot of funny moment of being a beekeeper. So I like this. Currently, I gave my bees away to friends and other beekeepers because the lab is moving to a new place, and we will be soon leaving the place we live. So bees can't go with me, unfortunately. But they found another home.
Good.
But that's actually fun being a beekeeper. So so it's, that's my current. Of course, I love to spend time with my family, with my 2 kids, whenever we have opportunity to do some kind of family fun stuff, we do it.
Awesome. So you won the MacArthur Award,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of money. And so, what do you think like distinguished you from other scientists to even win the award? Or what was implications of your research, maybe?
The MacArthur Award is a prestigious award, and it's given not only to scientists but to artists, to writers, to people who made significant impact in the area of art and research and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for many years the MacArthur Award, or actually I don't remember MacArthur Award given to reproductive biologists.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess our work in the area of male fertility and particularly the area of contraception were finally recognized, which is a great thing for the field, because for many years contraception was essentially something which people didn't even pay much attention to, and it was less funded, less recognized research. You have scientists have a very hard time publishing their contraceptive work in high-profile journal because it was considered to be a specialized study. And usually high-profile journals, like, your science always is distinguished by what articles, what papers you publish in a specific set of journals. And these journals have a criteria that your research should be as widely applicable or as widely kind of accessible to general population as possible, so to make a high impact. And for whatever reason, contraception was not considered to be that applicable, which is weird, because I think it concerns every single living person in this world instead of the time of their life, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, overall reproductive health. That's why I think overall reproductive health should be given more attention from a variety of branches, from high-profile journals, government, social media. It's a really important part of our life, and this taboo should be taken from this area, because we have to look at the reproduction as a real normal physiological function of our organism. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That's part of our physiology, and to have a healthy reproductive function is something every person has right to. So.
I agree with you, and one of the things about this topic is out of all the scientists I've ventured out, we need better hearts, we need better brains, we need all these things, but the very essence that allows you to spread your genetic material is reproduction. And this not only has a major impact on your just physical health, but imagine the mental health of you not being able to have a child, a precious embryo just coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. For many people, infertility is not just physical disease, but also mental suffering. Yeah. And people shouldn't suffer from this, because the new technology allowed many people to have kids. But you also need to understand why there is infertility in the first place, and whether you will be able to treat infertility. Why does it start? Is there any correlation with certain, as I mentioned before, ongoing disease? Because often, like infertility could be also, there might be some other serious disorders going on, like cancer, or like some autoimmune disease and so on and so on.
What are some of the negative effects of menopause, and how is your lab, or how is the research or the physiology-based research you're doing based on maybe accomplishing your goal of the negative side effects that menopause has on women?
Great question. So in this regard, trying to understand the correlation between menopause and the decrease in the level of circulating steroid hormones and the function of this peculiar organ inside the brain known as choroid plexus. The choroid plexus produces cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, which has three major functions. It provides a cushion for the brain. It suspends the brain so it's not very heavy, suspended in the CSF, but also another important factor of CSF is to remove toxins, byproducts from the brain and to basically provide nutrients. So the CSF, the brain is suspended in CSF, and CSF is constantly produced inside our brain, inside the brain ventricles, where the byproduct of the brain function is being released, and the correct plexus takes those, as well as other organs of the brain, takes those misfolded proteins, toxins, byproducts, and remove it from the brain. So essentially, the correct plexus functions as a janitor of the brain by removing all the junk out. And normally, we produce about 400, 500 milliliters of CSF per day, and this at any given time we only have about 150 milliliters of CSF. So it's constantly being renewed. And in a healthy adult, it happens about 4 times per day, especially during night. That's why a good night's sleep is very important, because that's very clear in CSF. But as you get older, the 70-year-old adult would have this clearance of the CSF only about 3 times per day. An Alzheimer patient they can clear the CSF only 2 times per day, which means that Alzheimer disease and similar diseases could be looked at a disease where byproducts, debris, junk accumulates inside the CSF and don't have an ability to be removed. Which means the correct plexus function is influenced in a great manner by steroid hormones. So we are trying to understand what are the molecular mechanisms which drive the presence of steroids, of circulating steroids, affect the function of correct plexus, and whether it's possible to rejuvenate the function of this organ so it can function better in the elder people, or whether there's a way to prevent onset of Alzheimer's disease, like making sure the function of correct plexus stays on.
You talk a lot about, the reproductive biology side of things. Is there any other realm of research that you're focused on, or are you having any shifting, or is it strict reproductive biology?
So it's reproductive biology and aging as the main focus right now. And in the recent, it so happens that when we work on certain pathways, certain molecules, and we find the function of this molecule to be important in another organ, we might go there and explore. And right now there is another research project going on in the lab, which is also related to reproductive biology, but we're trying to understand the molecular mechanism behind preeclampsia and preterm labor, which surprisingly happens because we were focused on a molecule on the pathway taking role in the correct plexus, and it turns out a similar pathway is taking place during pregnancy in female reproductive tract. So that's another area. Maybe we'll be able to do some of the research in reproductive health as well as aging, working in Alzheimer's disease area. And we have another sub-project which the lab is planning to work more deeply, which is related to age-related macular degeneration. That's the loss of the eyesight associated with aging.
Thank you.
They're all related to the same pathway, which is driven by steroid hormones.
I got you. So steroid hormones are everything.
Yeah.
And so a common theme in science, as we're approaching the end of the interview, a common theme in science is it seems like there's a transcription factor here, and it allows a gene to function. But sometimes that gene functioning results in a negative or even a positive side effect. And then since genetic material is the material of life, why can't we just turn off and on genes in order to make us have immortal reproductive production?
Well, it's a little bit more sophisticated than that. It's not necessarily only genes, because yes, genes produce mRNA produce proteins, but proteins might have there could be several proteins, several isoforms produced from the same gene. So it's called splicing, and you never know which isoform could be beneficial, and the gene could be turned on or turned off through the process of methylation or through the process of post-transcriptional modification. So there's still many regulatory parts which you don't understand. So the mere presence of the gene still doesn't guarantee that you will have a product of this gene, and that product will be exactly what you want.
I got you.
That's why, the epigenetic or environmental factors are so important, because even looking at two completely genetically identical people, like twins, like identical twins, if they're grown in different environments, they might, even if they look same, but they might have different health outcome, or they might have slightly different, diseases and so on. Of course, there are very clear, like if you talk about certain genetic disease, which have a very clear phenotype, yes, it's kind of unavoidable. Once you have it, there's a big chance this disease will produce itself. But the other factors are more modifiable.
I see.
So that's why we not only need to know the gene, we need to know what the gene produces and the whole network of how the other factors can interact with the product of the gene.
I see. And so, as we're approaching the end of our interview, there's one thing that really stood out to me is I like your ambition. And to be an ambitious person, a lot of times they say you're 1 in 5 of everybody you hang around. So what do you look for personally when you want a collaborator or a student or somebody to work with within the field of what you're working in? What are some things that you're looking for?
I would say curiosity.
And curiosity.
Curiosity is the first thing, and passion, of course.
Okay.
So, because knowledge can be acquired, skills can be acquired, but this, internal fire, which drives curiosity, that's either present or not.
I got you. Last question. What would you say to maybe that STEM high school, college student? They don't know what they want to do, or maybe they do know what they want to do, or they just want some clarification. What's your number one piece of advice for them?
Ask questions, as many as you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
Because that's how you get answers.
Yeah.
And be bold and persistent. And because, there will be lots of challenges throughout the life. And that's part of the life, to have challenges, to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every person does it, and that's how we learn. But make sure to be able to learn from your mistakes.
Nice.
So it's kind of be bold, courageous, ask questions, and don't be afraid to fail.
Ask questions. Well, I'm gonna go ask some more questions later on today. Dr. Lishko, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you so
Thank
much.